California Free Radio. I'm Mike Netter, joined by Scott Piotr, known as @TaxFighter7 on X, and Kurt English, who is not known by much at all except by us and all of you out there. We are streaming live as we always are on @NetterMike on X, on LinkedIn under my real name, Mike Netter on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, Outraged, and with the help of a team on the Rebuild California channel as we sprawl across social media. I'm going to open with a rant tonight because I'm incredibly ticked off before I even toss it to Scott and Kurt. Where, when, how did we start caring about kids? Where, when, how? And I don't mean kids 6, 7 years old, and I mean those too. I mean children of all ages. California's become so much about politics versus people, we've lost track. This week alone, in the California legislature, they indeed were debating. Yes, you're hearing me correctly. And what I'm going to say in about 2 minutes is going to shock the expletive deleted out of you. They were debating whether or not people that solicit 16 and 17-year-olds, yes, that could be your children and either has been or will be or is now, for sex should be declared a felony. So if you're 15 and under, I guess, it's a felony, thanks to Shannon Grove last year, where it was merely a misdemeanor, that if you solicit a person underage for sex, it's a misdemeanor if they're 16 or 17. This came up for a proposed to the Assembly. There's a gentleman, I will out his name in just a bit, who was head of the Assembly Committee, says, no, we're not exactly for that. We're liberal Democrats. Well, good news is, and exploded all over social media, here is some incredibly shocking news. If you're listening to this right now on the car, please pull over. If you're watching on social media, pull back a little bit so you don't spew on your screen or computer. The voice of reason in some of this was Gavin Newsom. What? Yes, indeed. And thanks to Kevin Kiley, who called out Gavin for saying, Gavin, your silence is actually ridiculous on this. Gavin Newsom actually spoke up this week and go, hey, you know what? We're not for prostitution against kids. Thanks, Gavin. We really appreciate that. Today, this issue exploded much further, and we're going to go into this. But I also want to call attention, everybody out there, to a couple other things. I put out on my feed yesterday, and I'm going to retweet it or repost it, as they now say, somewhere in the show, about the California Teachers Association, who lost track of the middle word teachers. And for definition out there, teachers are supposed to teach children. I'm going to say that again real slow in case some educators are watching. Teachers teach children. But no, the California Teachers Association, who has more scandals against them than Bernie Madoff or many people that are in prison right now, have decided it is their role on May 17th in LA and subsequent dates up and down the street to run a protest. Yes, indeed, a protest in front of SpaceX. I mean, who'd want their kid to become an aerospace engineer? Against Elon Musk and Trump. That is not your role. It is about the kids. It is about nurturing the next generation. Everyone out there, your comments do flow into this. Thank you, whoever's saying hello to California Free Radio. Someone saying hi to Scott, which may be himself for all I know. He's a bit weird that way. But for everyone out there,
thanks.
Look, pay attention. I'm going to toss to these gentlemen in a second. Pay attention. This is not getting reported by the mainstream news. There are a couple victories, though. We had a victory today out of Congress who said, hey, you know what? California, you don't make the rules for 40% of the cars around the country because the other liberal states are piling on. Not so fast banning gas-powered cars by 2035. We've had many others this week, too. But what really ticks me off, what gets me outraged, go to our YouTube channel if you can't remember that. What gets me outraged is the fact that indeed it's about the kids. Kurt, I see what you put in there. You said 15.9 billion. I thought it was 159 billion. You want to double check that figure?
We'll have to check it. I think it's for 1 month.
That is for 1 month, and I believe it is close to $200 billion. But check what Kurt's talking about, in case you wonder why we're exchanging notes during the show. The reason what we're talking about is what is not reported. Why the mainstream press has reported this week that our GNP is sinking. GNP did go down a little bit, which is the gross national product, if you're keeping track at home. But that's because imports went up because people are trying to import stuff immediately. Just so you know, when items are imported, they are subtracted from the GNP. But what is not reported by the mainstream press, which is why you tune in to shows like this, California Video, is the fact that we collected a record amount of tariffs for 1 month, and we're going to get that figure correct. But Scott and Kurt, I'm going to go off stream and check our social media real quick. Remember, help us share. Help us do anything you can to spread the word. And guys, weigh in on this. Weigh in on the kids real quick.
Well, it's ridiculous, the sex trafficking and the child molestation that Democrats in California are supporting. And it's not just making it merely a misdemeanor to solicit a 16 or 17-year-old for prostitution or sex by an adult. What's gross about that? A 40-year-old guy soliciting a 16-year-old? Come on. That's Democrats, though. But, they want to sexualize our children from kindergarten by putting LGBT-themed storybooks in our schools. They want to force in their stories, we talked about last week, of a girl in Central California, in Arroyo Grande, crying that she was humiliated by being forced to change for her sporting event in front of a boy in the girls' locker room. I guess Democrats are stupid and they don't understand that when it says GIRLS over the bathroom, it means girls and not boys. But, this is outrageous, Scott. Outrageous.
They can't define what a woman is, so why does it surprise us? And
well, that affirmative action Supreme Court justice couldn't. I think they're afraid of their radical left-wing base to just tell the truth.
Well, their liberal, wacko, left-wing base caused 55 Democrats in the assembly to vote to keep sex with 16 and 17-year-olds a misdemeanor instead of a felony. So, hey, we will just wink and give you a ticket and send you on your way if you have sex with a 16-year-old. We don't care. And so, I don't know if
Scott,
you remember.
But Scott, look who two of the people who voted for it in relatively conservative Orange County. Quirk Silva in North Orange County and the hypocritical Cotty Pothole Petrie Norris, who theoretically represents Irvine but lives at the coast in Laguna Beach, out of her district.
Who I ran against last November, just for those who don't remember. But yeah, I mean, the war on women continues. First of all, they can't define a woman, yet they sit there and say, hey, this is the first woman that did this or that. So they always like to define it when it benefits them. But they have a war on women.
Now, but Scott, let's wait a minute here. I have something to say to every adult watching or listening today. If you're an adult and you don't know what a woman is, you're an idiot. No one has to be told. Everyone knows what a woman is if you're an adult. Come on, Scott.
Hey, well, these guys went on record and basically said it's okay to have sex with girls that are 16 and 17-year-olds. I'm sure that they would, if they would ask the fathers of daughters, I have two, if that was okay. It's not okay.
Well, and think about what kind of a loser guy, Scott, can't get someone near his own age. I mean, come on. You got to manipulate a child because you're so undesirable that nobody wants you.
Or you could go further and just say, hey, why are these guys paying for sex? But let's not go there. So in continuing their war on women, AG, Attorney General Rob Bonta, he put it out in his Sunday newsletter that he puts out to all of the voters statewide. You probably got one in your mailbox if you've got your email on your voter registration form. And he basically said that they filed suit against the Trump administration to, as he's saying, trying to block Trump's Here, let me quote it. The Trump administration is attempting to claw back 7.9 billion in education funding for California's K through 12 schools because we will not bend to their will and abandon our commitment to promote equal access to education for all children. Okay, so that's Bonta speak. Let me translate that to, for people that understand. When he says equal access to education for all children, that's really Bonta speak for allowing boys pretending to be girls to use the girls' locker rooms and to be on girls' sports teams. And basically, Trump said, if that happens, we're going to discontinue your federal funds for education. And he's saying, no, we want to continue to allow boys pretending to be girls to go in and use the girls' bathrooms and sports teams, and we still want our money. And that's what the lawsuit's about. It's like the golden rule. You remember that guy that's got the gold makes the rules? The federal government is giving money, and there's a string attached. No boys pretending to be girls are allowed, and they don't like it in California because they're just whacked.
Well, let me jump in a little bit on this one and simplify it for myself, Scott, because you and Kurt know I'm not that bright along with the rest of our audience. And let me simplify that for everyone out there. Bribes, corruption, and deception. Let me explain. So for everyone out there, and I've actually, we're going to be doing a story on that in Netter News, where, by the way, my opening blast is going to be featured tomorrow. If you're not getting Netter News, which I plug, it's free. You have that kind of money. Google Netter News and get the deep story of what we opened with, which we're going to get back to. But I think what's important to note is that, Scott and Kirk, can I ask you a question?
No.
That was a leader, so I was going to anyway, but thanks for not giving me permission. Does anybody wonder, out of the $24 billion the state wasted on homelessness, gentlemen, out of a $300 billion plus state budget, why Gavin Newsom made such a big deal over $50 million, which is the equivalent to us finding a penny on a sidewalk, to allocate to the DOJ to sue Donald Trump? Do you know why that is, gentlemen?
Tell us.
I'm going
Yeah,
to.
I'll be the straight man. Why, Mike?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for playing along. If you're at home, you too can do this in your living room. That's because this money is allocated, doesn't go to the California DOJ. It goes to outside attorneys who actually file these lawsuits. Now, hold on. These outside attorneys, year after year, are the same outside attorneys which, shocking, happen to contribute to the Rob Bonta and Gavin Newsom campaign. So they give $10,000, $3,700, and they get rewarded with these contracts with the excuse that, we don't have many federal experts on staff. But gentlemen, as actually, I'm going to put this article out on social media. I haven't yet. Rob Bonta's own Department of Justice, yes, indeed, the lawyers underneath him, sued the Department of Justice, sued their own boss in just March of this year for saying, hey, remember us? We work for you. And when it comes to California environmental lawsuits, you've been going to outside counsel. Gentlemen, that outside counsel bills an average of $1,600 per hour, which is a great return on investment, by the way. If you're looking for a stock to buy, hey, pulling out a Tesla, I might get it. A little bit of a drop right now. Invest in Rob Bonta and Gavin Newsom. And this is the part which is not reported, which is really what these lawsuits are all about. But I had to go off screen for a second because I was trying to get Nick Schultz on the line. You probably don't know who Nick Schultz is, do you guys?
Now, before we go to Nick Schultz, I just want to comment that $1,600 an hour is what partners charge at the big LA law firms now.
Yeah.
L. Melvany and at that. But it would be an interesting lawsuit, wouldn't it, under California's private attorney general statute for someone to sue Rob Bonta for that conflict of interest of directing that business to his donors.
Well, and
And
it's
if he doesn't prosecute himself, then under California's private attorney general statute, which would be conflicted out, then a private attorney could proceed with the case. That'd be an interesting case, Mike.
just this week, and I put out, I think, a story on it last week. There are people filing FEC complaints against Robin Mia Bonta, as I put it, would make Bernie Madoff look like a street hustler playing three-card Monte in the city of New York. They literally have violated so many campaign laws, but of course that would have to be investigated by Bonta. So that's probably not going to happen. But Kurt, your point is, yeah, that's what the big attorney firms charge. But that's why, in theory, why we have in-house counsel that we pay to work so we, the people of California, don't have to pay it. Now, I'm going to ask you to play along at home, gents, and ask me who Nick Schultz is.
I give up.
Okay, Mike, who is Nick Schultz?
Thank you, Kurt. See, Kurt's getting this game, Scott. You're kind of like, ah. All right, but I'm going to roll with it here. Nick Schultz, and I'm going to put this out again, is the chairman of the what's called that was cough was fake for everybody out there. Don't worry, no need to call 911. They wouldn't show up anyway. It's Los Angeles. Of the Public Safety Committee. And Nick Schultz is the one who blocked coming out of committee the fact to modify what was put forth to charge people that solicited 16 and 17-year-olds as felonies. So you can solicit a 15-year-old, get charged with a felony. But Your Honor, I thought she was 16 or he was 16, which is Scott Wiener's excuse. And Nick Schultz blocked it with the excuse, you, the public, just don't understand. Literally, Gavin Newsom said, we're kind of against this. And even Robert Rivera, who is the head of the state assembly president, if you will, had to put forth he didn't make a comment on it because that would be weird for a Democrat. He simply put out, hey, we're kind of in favor of the kids. So everyone out there,
just kind of in favor.
Yeah, kind of in favor. That's literally kind of what it said. So again,
What's his last name again, Mike? What's his last name?
His name is Nick Schultz. Look right now, Assemblyman Nick Schultz. This guy is such a chicken, expletive deleted.
And he voted with the 55.
No. He understand. Not only did he vote with them, he is the head of the Public Safety Committee that blocked it from going out of committee to even get to the floor for a vote 2 days.
He just froze mid-word. Hey.
Well, you can finish his sentence, Scott.
I think what he's telling us is that he stopped it in committee. And the reason that we have a record of a vote on it is because the Republicans moved to bring it to the floor outside of the committee structure, and 55 Democrats voted against it at that point. But he killed it in committee before that happened. I like Mike's just kind of stopped there in mid-word. That's got to be really hard for him to hold that pose for that long. So,
but that's what we can expect from Rob Bonta, is to continue suing California and suing to harm us and harm our kids. But Scott, gas prices are going up because of the refinery is getting tanked because of all the rules.
Right,
we're going to have 20% less refinery capacity, plus the CARB board, which you've explained in previous shows. At risk of adding a 65-cent gas tax.
By the way, I want to make a note. I know for there for a second, you see this face? He looks a lot like my cable repairman who's on the pole outside because my internet just went down. So that was rather shocking. What I started to say, sorry, boys, to jump back in.
We'll be able to tell whether or not we guessed what he was going to say correctly.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Had victory in the fact that we made a really big deal of it. And we in social media and throughout shows like this and with people like Kevin Kiley and the most amazing words I've ever heard uttered in California politics One of my people I'm proud to call a buddy, Josh Hoover, an assemblyman, said, when Gavin Newsom has to be the voice of reason, we're in trouble. But
Yeah, right.
we, the people,
Well, but it's
actually
a half-hearted. Well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Gavin Newsom wants to take all sides of every issue so he can pretend to not be against it before he was for it, like John Kerry.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
but
hi,
either way,
Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. So is that what you guessed I was going to say?
no, we explained that we have a record of the vote, and the 55 Dems voted against it because they moved to take it out of committee on the floor, which they lost.
Right. Anyway, the reality is, guys, is that
We
can
skipped
make
over the part that he's a scumbag.
yeah, we can make a difference. We do make a difference. And the fact there's been so much complaints about gas powered cars in 2035, that's the headline. But much of what takes place in the California Assembly hits us every day. There you go. Kurt, I
Totally.
want to check your figure here.
He's not got an attractive figure. I'm sorry. No offense.
That's true.
No, he's talking about the revenue for tariffs.
Yeah, Kurt, hit us with a couple of news stories this week because you always feed us news stories. And
All
not
right,
that I
so we
can
talked
argue
about the
about it.
refinery shutdown, another Green New Deal scam. There was a study that talked about the soaring costs of California's so-called green energy transition, and then there's climate change is causing all the fires, according to Newsom and the liberals. So the climate change caused another fire underneath the 110 freeway in Los Angeles next to a massive homeless encampment. You probably heard about
That
that.
didn't get much report either, even though it only got reported a few years ago. I think it was about 3 when Highway 10 kind of got burned down when we were going into KABC. Not when we were going, but so we couldn't get into KABC. Yeah, didn't get much.
So they've destroyed our economy. They've destroyed the budget. They're destroying schools. You don't exactly think of Mississippi and Louisiana as having top school districts now, do you, Scott? But did you know Mississippi and Louisiana's their 4th and 8th grade math scores are better than New York and California in 2024? And what do you know about New York and California, and what do you know about Louisiana and Mississippi?
Well, I know what we're reporting. I know what we're reporting in Netter News tomorrow. Larry is right, by the way. We're watching our comments on the side. Newsom does look a little bit freaky behind you, just like the cable guy looks like Schultz. Go ahead.
Well,
Kurt,
here, if I do this toward Newsom, let's see which way. Oh, there we go. If I do this toward Newsom, I'll get in trouble, right? But anyway, Mississippi and Louisiana are Republican-run states. They have better math scores than New York and California, which used to be at the top. California, when I went to LA City Schools, was at the top. And of course, now LA City Schools is $1.3 billion upside down. They've more than doubled their per student budget, but the number of students is down 29%. Why? Because their district sucks and nobody wants to put their kids there.
Now look at the CTA. They shut down the schools during COVID, and they were the ones that demanded that they stay shut down because, hey, their teachers are staying at home, not working, and getting full pay. What's not to like about that? They definitely don't have the kids in mind. They definitely don't care about the kids.
Well, Scott and Mike, remember the head of the California Teachers Union in the 90s, I forgot his name, he said, I'll start caring about children when children start paying union dues.
Well, look, can I mention now that I've gotten Schultz off the line? Okay. I'd like to talk about another guy I'd like to get on the line. Speaking of what you're saying, Kurt, David Goldberg. And you may not know who David Goldberg is, do you? But you want to know David Goldberg because David Goldberg has a total compensation of $342,627. Now, you guys should know by now, what are you supposed to ask me?
What does he do for the government, Mike?
He doesn't do a thing for the government, but who is David Goldberg? Scott got this one correct, Kurt. Those of you playing along, the question is, who is the guy? David Goldberg, when we talk about teachers being underpaid, is the president of the current California Teachers Association. Now, gentlemen, and Kurt, I'm going to get back to tariffs in 1 second because you're only partially right, but you missed it by that much. I'll go
There's
back to
union
that.
work, right? Paying that guy's
Yes,
salary.
and the CTA, in case everyone out there, if you don't believe me, Google CTA scandals. They've been accused of spying on parents. They've been accused of that the union has been identifying political sources. Basically, they're a Democratic wing, and they want to know everybody what your political affiliation for teachers and parents are. They're just, if you look at their site, you will notice there's a Democratic interface group, but no Republican interface group. And the list goes on and on. But I want to stress again that it's nothing in there, whatever, really talks about the kids. Nothing. They talk a little bit about kids' right, and Sally should be Sammy. Sally doesn't know we're the boy and a girl. And Kurt, I agree with you. Most people do. Human beings aren't cats. You can tell their sex pretty much at birth. Cats, it's a little bit difficult, 8, 9, 10 weeks. I'll give it that to you. But for human beings, we pretty much know that we aren't human beings. Don't go in the litter box where we share it together. We should know the sex. Well, the CTA isn't exactly
Okay,
for that.
Mike, the litter box.
Now, Kurt, I want to go on one more thing here. You know the 192 you were talking about?
192 what?
That's my line. Oh, that's your line.
Thank you. That is your line. So, the United States collected 200 million in a day in record tariffs in April 2025. Okay?
200 billion.
That is the record. So that would raise about 1.4 trillion if over the next 10 years. That you really have to understand, and this isn't meant, we're not a national show, and don't want to go too deep into economics. But when you hear Gavin Newsom brag about California and how well we're doing, we're not. When the mainstream press likes to doubt this and that about your household income and how it's going, for most of us, when the price of eggs drops, we're doing okay. For most of us, gasoline's dropped nationally, except for California, and we're not okay. Gents, that's really how we judge the quality of life, isn't it?
Hey, my In-N-Out burger price keeps going up, dude.
Well,
Yep,
it's not
the
just
double
about
bill.
money. It's not just about money. It's about crime. It's about sexualizing children. It's about corruption. I mean, the Karen Bass is trying to fight an audit of how they wasted $2 billion they can't account for in Los Angeles City. The county is mismanaged. The state is way, way over budget, including the mother of all incompetent projects, the high-speed rail. And USAID and the federal government has stolen trillions, including having Social Security recipients over 120 years old and all kinds of money going overseas. The government and the Democrat Party are a massive money laundering operation and a racketeering conspiracy.
Fraud machine.
And Kurt, I wanted to go a little bit deeper into a story you sent us in the notes, which another plug is in Netter News this morning. Let's talk about Jennifer Sybil, which is also known as Mrs. Gavin Newsom, for those of you out there with the more traditional, the first partner, which she really is. She's not his wife. She's kind of his partner in crime. I think you sent me that story this week too, didn't you, Kurt?
I'm sorry, which story? Oh, about
Marilyn,
her.
and let's talk again.
Oh, where they're giving LGBT content to 5-year-olds in school.
Well, hold on. It's a little bit more than that. Who sponsored that LGBTQFYZ alphabet soup out of order? Who wants the new ABCs in order anymore? Who sponsors those books and films, many of them?
That would be Gavin Newsom's first spouse.
That is correct. And for those of you out there,
Well, no, his first spouse is Kimberly Guilfoyle.
True. Well, if she's his current first spouse, his current
First,
second
Oh,
wife and current
first,
first spouse.
first partner for $1,000, Hal. Yes.
Yes, thank you. First partner for $1,000. What's amazing if you haven't been following this out there, and again, the book we've talked about in one of our shows, Fool's Gold, goes into deep where this comes from, but let me simplify it for you. The Bontas, that I'm talking about, Mia and Rob, who are the odd couple when you look at them, but we'll leave that alone. And we're talking about, and I'm not talking about Felix and Oscar, by the way, and Gavin and Jennifer are the king of what's called behested payments. And when you talk about bribes in plain sight that corrupt our kids, because we're about kids tonight, we're about kids all the time, but that's our focus. The behested payments means when Gavin reaches his max, he asks really big companies, including these law firms, to donate to charities on the behest of the governor. The amazing part of it is one of the biggest charities. The head of it happens to be, if we had a drum roll with Dan, I would say, a drum roll, please, Jennifer Sybil, who is then producing basically pornographic books for our kids and movies about why your sex isn't what you think it is, even though you think you're one sex, who should believe your parents. And then she turns around and her husband kind of makes it part of the curriculum of schools and sells them back to the schools who buy them with our taxpayer money. Was that too complicated, or did I explain that fairly easily?
What people don't understand is how much money the taxpayers pay in order to get that money into the Democrats' pocket. They have $1,000 in consultant services. They get $10 donated to Newsom, or pick the politician of your choice, and we're paying all this money for stuff we don't need in order to get that $10 into that Democrat Party's pocket. It's just ridiculous. We get a bunch of stuff overpriced that we don't need just so that we can have the money laundered. I mean, it's a really inefficient laundering machine. At least if you're a criminal and you're laundering money, you usually get 0.5% to 50% to 90% of the value, and they only take 10% and some change maybe to launder it. Here they're taking like 95% of the money in order to get it laundered, and we the taxpayers are paying the bill.
And again, Kurt, the story, which again, where I had to put in Netter News tomorrow, is California is still not, by the way, in convicted bribes and bribery, we're still number 2 to Chicago, but we're catching up quickly. But the good news is, if you're a California corrupt liberal, is that we are ahead of Maryland in a much larger state, corrupting our children with our own money. Kurt, talk a little deeper about that.
you're talking about the
Story where,
LGBT.
yes, the LGBT one, because the reality is, in this state, we are again, the governor's wife is selling materials to our schools that are paid for, that are actually produced with donations by companies to the governor's wife, who's making in the mid 6 figures, I guess is the best way to put it, who then turns around through this non-governmental organization, NGO. It sounds like something you would catch down in Mexico on the weekend, with an NGO, and then turns around and sells them to schools as kind of required with our taxpayer money. And she apparently got this idea a little bit from Maryland. Go ahead, Kurt. You're raising your
Well,
hand.
the problem is the parents were opting out when they were resenting this perversion in health class, so they moved it to English class, and the parents were not given an option to opt out. So I have a message to everyone watching and listening tonight. If you have children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, get them out of public school. Get them out of public school. You cannot trust the public school. You cannot trust the people in charge of public schools. They are going to undermine your values, leave the public schools. Homeschool, Catholic school, Christian school, charter school, leave the public schools for the benefit of your kids and grandchildren.
Yeah, the list goes on, and the reasons for not having them in public school are much longer. And of course, the solution to the problem is that we need to get rid of the public schools, or at least get competition for the public schools, which is what the School Choice Initiative, which should be released by the Attorney General's office here soon, right, Mike? Yes.
Well, Scott, already in Florida, they have school choice for the whole state. And 14 other states are considering it this year.
So school choice, what that means is that instead of having the money follow the kid, instead of having the kids follow the money, instead the money will follow the kids. So you decide to put your kid in a private school, Catholic school, whatever kind of school, then you'll get the money that would normally go to educate your kid in the public school system, and you get to spend that in another school.
Yes, and Boom, I want to jump in before. It's funny, my internet only goes out during the show. Not that I think it's a conspiracy theory, but that's literally true. I've got two systems, and they both come up and down here.
Well, the guy may be out on your pole. You better look out the window.
Yeah, I got to go talk to Schultz afterwards here. He's still up there. Oh, look, he's smoking a blunt. But anyway, there are two initiatives coming out this year. One is something called the CEO Act. It is the Children's Educational Opportunity. Kevin McNamara, we're going to have him on our show, Kevin McNamee, and that is going to be the new school choice we're putting out this year. I've been working behind the scenes, but no more, in making sure we get a gathering for signatures about August, September. And by the way, because we know the politicians will fight it, another important one I'm actually working with Carl DeMaio's team on is voter ID, and that should hit about fall of this year too. So when
now, Mike, I have a question for you on these two important initiatives.
Yes.
Will they qualify for the primary ballot?
No, because that's not the way it works. They qualify. The reason we're doing them early is because the idea is if there will be constitutional amendments, each needing around 900,000 signatures, only the legislature can bump something up to the primary, but they will. The idea is to get them done in time where we can start the campaigns. And by the way, 70% of the people on both these measures say they're in favor of it, to make sure they get on the ballot first pass, and we have time to tell the people of California about them for the general in November of 2026.
All right, Mike, another important question.
Really? Okay.
Another important question. Last year, an important initiative qualified, and the California Supreme Court just said, we're not going to put it on the ballot.
Which is
exactly. How are you going to prevent that?
Well, because
Taxpayer Reduction Act.
Yes, the Taxpayer Reduction Act, which is exactly what we're talking about here. We want to make sure, and the Taxpayer Reduction Act and the Howard Jarvis Group and Susan Shelley, God bless them, knew this ahead of time. And fortunately, we, the people, actually did succeed, not in getting that on the ballot, but we did succeed in beating down what the other side put on the ballot. So we actually had a weird win because they thought they would do it. Now we should be able to get these on the ballot because, again, they've been tested, etc. But I think these are going to pass because, Scott, I want to answer a little more in depth in your question because this is a fairly good one. The Taxpayer Protection Act was relatively complicated. And it got almost so complicated, the California Supreme Court, where, by the way, the judges are picked by Gavin, nothing to see here, like my internet repair guy, right? But it was complicated and difficult for everybody to understand. School choice, and there's a microcosm of issues below it, and voter ID are relatively easy for the public to understand. And I think if the state of California keeps suing to stop these, they're really going to have quite the expletive deleted storm on their hands. The Taxpayer Production Act was shut down because the California Supreme Court, wrongly in my opinion, but let's just say they did, said it's going to handcuff California collecting taxes because we're the judges and hey, we need to get paid. But
No conflict of interest there. Yeah.
Kurt, that's another good point. Bring up the price of gasoline.
In parts of Florida, the price of gasoline today is $1.93. I drove by a station in Newport Beach yesterday, $5.79 a gallon.
Yep. And I retweeted the Democrats today who put out an amazing tweet. They said, I'll make sure you poor people of California that when you put aside your monthly budget for rent, that you put money aside for tariffs. And I tweeted,
Mike, they have a solution. The Democrats have a solution for the homeless problem. They want to allow you to live in your car.
Yeah, we're going to get there in 1 second, but I want to add, I tweeted back to them, how about we put in our budget what a gallon of gasoline costs, because I really don't see the tariff. And let's talk about them allowing people to live in their car, because that's where we'll be living if gas continues to rise, because we're not going to be able to afford to drive it anywhere, Kurt. Good lead into the next story.
Well, there's so much.
I'm going to hit you on gas for real quick here. Remember last week we talked about how the car manufacturers have to have a certain number, 35% of their cars have to be EV or plug-in hybrids by this next model year that starts in September, the 26 model year. And so part of the way that they're going to get that and get us to achieve that is they're going to keep raising the price of gas. And so they want that gas to be $5, $7, $8 a gallon, because then you're going to sit there and go, oh, I guess I really do need an electric car. And you're going to buy that electric car and you're going to keep their percentages the way that they like to have their percentages. And that is for total phase out. Although I see Kevin Kiley in the Congress passed his resolution that it's against California's gas car ban.
Yeah, and by the way, that was a nonpartisan vote today. Many or bipartisan, as we call it. Many Democrats, I think the vote. What was the vote on that? It was like
55 Democrats. You talking about the kids, or which one are you talking about?
No, the one about the passed in Congress today, shutting down California's.
What it does is the EPA was granted California a waiver so that they could try to shut down gas-powered cars. The House voted in 3 separate votes yesterday and today to get rid of that waiver. Now the Senate needs to pass it. Trump will sign it, and it will guarantee that Californians can drive their muscle car forever.
But the question is, what was the vote?
Almost all 35 Democrats voted in favor of letting Californians
which is
drive
pretty amazing. And by the way, that battle will continue past this, and that's a deeper subject for another show, if you will. But again, it goes back to the fact, I don't know how you're supposed to even get your kids to school. I'm not really sure that they really know what their own end game is. By the way, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole really quick because it was funny. Senator Brian Dahle, actually had put out a post, I think about a week ago, right after our show, that the electric school buses that they're trying up in Northern California don't have enough power because of the way they're powered during the winter to put heat on during the buses in Northern California.
They run out of juice.
No, they don't have enough juice, right? Because of gas powered, they obviously get the heat a different way. So it's fascinating. We have going to have frozen children going to schools, which, by the way, are ranked about last in the country in every category, to go. Again, this is why we have to pass the School Choice Act. Kurt, let's talk about kids living in their cars, though.
Well, there's a new bill to allow people to live in their car, thanks to our friends in the Democrat legislature. What do you think about that, guys?
Do they actually
car camping?
It's allow students to, which is really interesting, by the way, and I forget the figure. Students, I believe, at a few universities, they want to live in their car because apparently they allegedly can't find housing But Kurt, I want to pile on that story a little bit because FEMA, when they did a scan of Los Angeles, found an overabundance of vacancies actually in LA, and they were kind of scratching their heads going, we're not going to give pay for rent for apartments because we see so many apartments out there for rent. And I got to ask I want everybody to do me a favor and report into us next week. Gentlemen, you drive around town, right?
Occasionally, yes.
When we can afford California's high gas prices. Mike.
Okay. Do you ever notice the number of apartment buildings that you pass that
In
say,
LA?
Depends on the part of town, but yeah, there are a lot of them.
no, that say vacancy? They don't say,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, we have something for rent. We're only in 2 and 3 bedroom special. That got me scratching my head a little bit, going, I'm a little confused here. Why do we have all these vacancies? Yet we have all these people that theoretically are going to say, well, they can't afford housing. Well, yeah, some people can't, so they might have to double up. But I'm just kind of making the point that when the federal government actually scanned LA, they go, there's actually a lot of vacancies. And I challenge people out there, please send me pictures this next week on my X feed of apartment buildings you see in different parts of California that have signs up that they have a vacancy or running a special. And let's do our own little poll and see if indeed some people just don't want to have a place to live because they have mental or drug problems, or there really aren't enough places to live. Because observation, I like to take our own poll. But Kurt, no, we shouldn't allow people to live in their cars because how are they going to differentiate from a student to a whatever?
Yeah, but that's been going on in the Bay Area for many years because of housing prices in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
People making over $100,000 a year were choosing to live in their car, go to the gym, take a shower, and then go to work in the morning.
Yeah, I got to question that too, Kurt. And the reason I question that a little bit, and you've heard that story, and they find a few teachers that do, and I know that's a narrative, not to take issue with that, my good friend, but to take issue with that, my good friend. I question why a teacher, the story behind that is the teacher says, oh, I live in San Jose. I'm a teacher in San Francisco making 100,000 a year, and the commute is just so hard that I have to live in my car because I can't afford San Francisco. I guess that would come down to, Kurt, that is why, well, not that anybody would hire me in New York. I don't live in a penthouse overlooking Times Square or Central Park because I can't afford it. So I probably shouldn't get a job working in a deli in Central Park and want to live there. I always got mixed messages from that a little bit because they always find that subset of people who don't, which I understand, don't want to do the Bay Area commute because they're only making 100,000 a year. Go work somewhere where you can afford to do that or make the commute. We've all commuted many a distance to where we go. But anyway, I mean, they find
Well, but
this.
Mike, a lot of people have left California because of housing prices
I know.
and the crime and the cost of living.
No.
They've just left.
Well, I think.
And
Yeah.
now ICE is sending the illegals home. So yeah, no wonder there's vacancies in the apartments.
Well, no, there's no doubt.
There
no
you go.
doubt.
Scott just hit on it. They're
Yeah.
kicking out the illegal aliens, and there's more vacancies, Scott.
Yeah.
That's
So-
it.
So the according to Grok, our AI pal on X, vacancy rates second quarter of last year in LA County rose 5.1%. And the third quarter, the vacancy rate slightly decreased to 4.7, so a little bit less than the 5.1. So yes, you're getting increased vacancies to the tune of around 5%.
Scott,
And specific areas, high-end luxury apartments are higher vacancies than that.
well, hold on. LA is a big place. This isn't just high-end vacancy apartments. Scott, can you ask Grok another question since we now have
Sure.
a assistant on the show? Ask Grok what the average vacancy rate for the last 10 years has been in Los Angeles.
Okay. Well, don't wait for me.
Oh, I was excited. I thought Grok was actually like Yoda
Well,
sitting.
my typing is slower than
That's all right. While Scott's doing that, let's talk about another problem. We talked about the corruption of Democrats. There's a group called Act Blue, which is a website that has been laundering foreign and drug cartel contributions to Democrat candidates in violation of federal law, and they've been referred to the Department of Justice. That will have a material effect on California too, if they prosecute Act Blue and shut that that campaign cheating down.
And the Democrats this week, by the way, have been acting very blue about it. That's
No
funny.
pun intended.
Yes, that was a pun intended. Stephanie, I like that. 16 live in a 2-bedroom houses. Yes, and drive $50,000 trucks. I'll call out to Stephanie on that because, yes, I've seen that too. It's like we can barely afford housing. Well, and I'm going to leave alone, but I've been houses and see them. And they're like, oh, we have to have 14 people living here. And it's so hard to park all our brand new BMWs on the street. And you're like,
don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I don't hear sympathy in your voice.
you gotta wonder, to your point, okay, it's like what's going on, but let's put that down. Scott, did you get an answer on that?
Yeah, I mean, vacancy rates have increased a little bit over the last 10 years. The average over the last 10 years is 4. The current vacancy rate is about 4.8. But, from an investor standpoint, if you have anything less than 5% vacancy, you're in the home run area. It's definitely a renter's market, a landlord's market, not a renter's market. There may be some holes in that based on certain markets and things like that, but it's still a landlord's market.
But I know I get a landlord's market and I get supply and demand, and we need to build more places in Los Angeles, etc. But I guess my point is, the average vacancy rate is what?
Over the last 10 years, the average vacancy rate is 4.0. 4%.
And what is the vacancy rate now in Los Angeles? You just looked up?
It's 4.8% now.
So the vacancy rate's gone up.
That's 2024. Yeah. It's 0.8 of a point over the average. And 10 years ago, it was in the 3.5 to 2.9 to 3.2 range.
So because I'm a simple man, to make Kurt's point, which is painful as me saying Gavin Newsom was the voice of reason this week, okay? Shall we say, we're pushing illegal aliens out of, illegal immigrants, illegal aliens out of the city of Los Angeles, and the vacancy rate, for those of you who aren't really good at math, has gone up 20% in LA. About 5 into 4 means we've had an increase on a big number of about 20%.
Right, we have, and I'm sure that's all because the middle class has left California and the illegals are following them. Well, they're not following necessarily, but they are leaving California.
Well, but I've seen this trend for a long time. This has been a Democrat-run state for a long time, and I've seen manufacturers leave California the last 30 years. What's happened the last several years is there's been an acceleration of productive people leaving. I know investors who have sold their California real estate portfolios in the last 15 years and de-Californianized their lives.
Yeah.
So the state, if you think about it, the productive people are marching out. So if this doesn't turn around, tax revenues are going to drop eventually, and you're not going to have a financially viable state.
Yeah, the middle class is left, or in the process.
I want to take a step back here, Jen. Sorry, Scott. But it's not eventually, guys. LA, by the way, here's a quick funny side story. LA decided to ban a dirty word at the city council this week. Thank God they got to that. Because the city of Los Angeles alone, Kurt, is $1 billion underwater this fiscal year. Okay, so it's huge.
Well, so is LA Unified School District, 1.3.
So is LA County. So is the state of California. So Armageddon, fiscal Armageddon is here. It's at our damn doorstep. It's not going to happen. It is happening. Back to you, gentlemen.
Well, but it's not just the money. I mean, look at Scott and Mike, LA City Attorney, Democrat and Columbia Law School grad, Haiti Feldstein Soto. Guess what she did this week? Do you know, Mike?
She
decided we're not going to prosecute any of the violent protesters at USC and UCLA during the anti-Semitic protests last spring.
So all those
So they
arrests
get a
were
free
for
pass.
they're not gonna. This is the Attorney General, or I'm sorry, the
The
District
Los
Attorney's office?
Angeles City Attorney, because USC and UCLA are in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, but the county district attorney can pick him up if he wanted to.
Yeah, but this is the LA City Attorney.
No. This is the LA. This is a different type thing. I guess the case would have to be kicked up because these crimes or whatever. So yeah, we have an LA. And by the way, both the Los Angeles County District Attorney and the City District Attorney are elected. So we keep saying, be careful who you vote for, et cetera, which you should.
We finally got rid of Gascon in the LA County DA's office. So now we have somebody reasonable. He should pick up these cases at SC and UCLA. If the LA City Attorney's not going to do it, then the heck with him. We'll just have the Attorney General or the District Attorney do it.
The District Attorney, the County.
We're talking about the county.
The County District Attorney has jurisdiction if the city doesn't want it.
But hold on, there's more. Kurt, where did these things happen at?
USC and UCLA.
Uh-huh. And USC and UCLA happen to be, in some respects, supported by federal funds. So while the liberals think they're going to get away with some of this at the lower level, and they might on some of these, the hammers are coming. Kurt, I don't think this is in your flow of stories, but Tom Homan had mentioned today, look what's going to be coming soon to those mayors and state that have these sanctuary cities. Just stay tuned. People keep forgetting.
Well, to your point, Mike, he said the Wisconsin Democrat governor said, we're not cooperating with ICE. I hope he enjoys his jail cell.
So you're right, Mike. So like Tom Homan said, what's going to happen to these guys? Are we going to have the U.S. attorney then going after civil rights violations on these anti-Semitic protesters and for federal violations?
I think we're going to have a lot more coming is the best way to put it. The government, and again, for everybody out there, and I get a million comments a day. Oh my God, this hasn't happened. This has happened. This hasn't happened. This has happened. Trump has done an amazing amount of work in office since he got in January 20th. Okay.
Yes.
There's a lot of
celebration, which we haven't really done because we're kind of concentrating in California, has been fantastic this week. The
Correct.
list is long, and very much the American people are saying, yes, that's what I voted for.
And by the way, to pile on that a little bit, to kind of both your gentlemen's point, although somebody may watch this show and go, I haven't seen mass deportations in Los Angeles, and you may or may not before everybody runs for the hills, if you're here illegally. We've seen the influx at the border has gone to almost zero. And so California has been kind of the transition point for people coming into LA, getting a lot of money, like $4,000 to $8,000 to $9,000 a month to live in LA, fill up those apartments, if you will, okay, on our government dime, and then go off to other states as they flood the country. That spigot has been turned off.
But remember, Mike, last year in 2023 and 2024, Democrats were saying we needed a bipartisan bill to stop the flow of illegal aliens. And you know what, Mike? They lied. We just needed a new president.
That's because the word the Democrats should be using isn't bipartisan, Kurt. I would like to correct any Democrats watching this show. For those of you leading your party, it's actually bipolar. Because they really, what they try to do is jump immediately to the other side of what this side's doing. Again, like I opened the show here. We're going a little bit overtime this week, but I want to roll here again like I opened the show. It has now become entirely, a lot on the Republican side too, gentlemen, below Trump and below a lot of good elected officials like McDonald, what's the hell, Kentucky.
Senator Kevin Kiley.
No. There's good guys like Kiley, but the guy, Mitch McDonald out of Kentucky.
From Kentucky.
Right. The guy who constantly looks like he has a stroke, and I always think my internet's frozen, which is why I call him tonight every time he's on TV. It's simply become about being grumpy. It's not about doing what's right. And we're starting to get people back in office instead of being bipolar. We don't care if you're bipartisan. Just do what's right for the people of your state, for the kids, for California. Yes, bring Dodge here. Stephanie is right. Start looking into the corruption, peeling back the layers. We want to know where our money goes. We want to know what's going on, right?
Yeah, Stephanie has some great posts, so we want to remind our audience that you can post on and we can see it. So let us know what you think. And Mike, there's another important thing going on. There's a guy named Ed Martin, who's an attorney who used to run Phyllis Schlafly's Eagles after Phyllis Schlafly died, and he has been appointed as the U.S. Attorney in D.C. in the swamp, and he is bringing thunder and lightning to the Democrats, and they don't like it. And even a couple of rhinos like Tom Tillis don't like it. And Adam Schiff is trying to prevent Ed Martin from being confirmed. It's very important that Trump pressures the Senate to confirm Ed Martin, because if we want to drain the swamp and prosecute people who need to be prosecuted, and oh, by the way, you mentioned this earlier, be patient, everybody. There's a guy named Mike Davis, Article 3 Project, and he says he's met with DOJ and FBI people, and he said, stuff is happening. It takes a while to build a case. That's because you don't want them to prosecute these people and have a weak case and fail. You want them to go to jail. So we all need to be a little patient on holding the deep state accountable.
Well, the nice thing carrying that line across, we're not waiting for that when it comes to illegal aliens that are criminals. We have records of that. So even though you got wacko judges all piling on this guy Garcia, who's a wife-beating, MS-13 member, the ICE went and invaded or raided that club in Colorado Springs and made like 120 arrests. And these are all bad guys, and these are guys that the local police knew were problems, and they had like literally 900 some odd 911 calls in the last 30 days. That's how bad this place was. And ICE just went and locked everybody up, hauled them all off. Colorado is one of those sanctuary states. It's not a friendly state to ICE.
Did you guys
waiting around for these idiots?
Did you guys watch the Trump interview the other night?
With who?
Which one? He's so available to the media.
The one in the White House with ABC.
Oh, where he slapped ABC around?
What was fascinating is the guy at ABC, and they sent some lion into slaughter. I never heard of the guy. I never heard half these guys. And Trump, yes, did indeed cut him up. And he's going, well, and Trump goes, you got to watch this part for everyone out there. They go, well, wait, what do you say because he wasn't a member of MS-13? And Trump kept going, it says he has MS-13, the only way Donald Trump can do it, on his knuckles. And they're going, wait, we think that was Photoshop. And Trump goes, it wasn't Photoshop. Look at his knuckles. You don't think he was a member of MS-13? It says MS-13. And the press is, they're debating it. And it's like, back to your point about Colorado and what you hear in LA and the raid in Pomona that I talked about last week. Guys, we have criminals walking amongst us. And by the way, the one crime that I hear all the time that really ticks me off as we kind of wind towards the end here is child molestation. That we've been letting child molesters go who don't even belong in this country. And the liberals are like, well, that's okay. The poor killer and child bleepist came up from El Salvador. He's oppressed. I hope he is down there.
You saw what Robert Kennedy said yesterday. He said HHS has been used as a vehicle for selling children, right? And the 300,000 people that Biden's administration lost, all of them minors, right? HHS, they're tasked with trying to find these guys, save these kids from their sexual slavery or whatever slavery that they're in. Biden and the Democrats, they don't care, but we're out there chasing those guys down. We've got 11 million plus people we got to get rid of here, and we're not going to be able to do it in a year. but we're not waiting 10 years to do it. We're not going to give them amnesty. We're not going to give them, in effect, amnesty, because that's what the judges are trying to do by establishing some unconstitutional due process rights. They're going to basically.
Well, Scott, the solution is just
people.
Trump needs to suspend habeas corpus, the writ of habeas corpus, like Lincoln did in the Civil War. This is
Hold
an
on.
invasion.
Let me ask.
Hey, as a non-citizen, they don't get habeas corpus. Forget it. They don't get it. Why do they get it?
I like to ask an intelligent question of two intelligent guys, and since they're on the show, I just got you two. So let me see if you can answer this trivia question. What president has deported the most people in history?
Are we talking
Obama?
Correct.
Obama.
Box of Snickers to Kurt. And if you can imagine what Trump said in this interview, which is very fascinating, by the way, he said, you can't have hearings for everybody, nor do you need to. But he goes, how am I supposed to have hearings for like 3 million people? He goes, they'll be in the country forever. But
well, here's my question, Mike. Did they have due process when they came in?
No, that's what Trump said. I'm granting you that 100%. But you guys have to help me because I'm older than you two, not put together, because that would be amazing. I would be getting Social Security. But I am older than you two, and I'm trying to recall all the protests by the California Teachers Association and all the rioting in the streets when Obama deported all those people.
You know the answer. There wasn't any because it's all political.
Really?
Or all the protesting that happened because those immigrants that came in under Biden did not get due processing. All they got was a welcome wagon by ICE and shipped to the city of their choice, unless it happened to be, Kenny Bunkport or something like that, or Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, Martha's Vineyard. No welcome. No bueno.
So here, interesting for you is this. And I'm gonna retweet this again right now. Okay. Former president, best words I've said on the show tonight, Barack Obama, formally removed 3 million over 2 terms, more than any other president. George Bush only removed about 870,000. You know who follows, by the way, Obama?
Eisenhower.
Nope, Bill Clinton with 2 million. When combining removals and returns, Clinton expelled about 12.3 million people, the most of any U.S. president overall. But see, this is what's changed, guys. It's gone from Democrat, Republican to just bipolar, not bipartisan, because we're just going to, if we're Democrats or liberals, just disagree with what you're doing. In fact, murder would be okay if it was, they could find a way to disagree with the Republicans on it. And that's what's been going on as we rolled at the end here.
You tie it to 16 and 17-year-old sex, maybe that'll be okay.
Yeah, it blows my flipping mind. And let's roll down to the end a little bit and talk about this. Kurt, give us 2 more quick stories. Scott, you end with a roll and I'll wrap it up.
Well, I think that the biggest thing is that if you look at the massive corruption that Doge has uncovered, and Stephanie made a great point, we need Doge here in California. There is massive corruption by Democrat-run California, and it starts with ballot fraud. We've got to have honest elections. California, we do not right now. Ballots are coming in close races after Election Day, just thrown into the count, and there's no way to track them. What we need is watermark ballots, paper ballots, same-day voting, ban electronic voting, which has been shown to be able to be hacked, and that data is being manipulated even overseas. So until we have honest elections, we can't fix California.
We're working on it with the first step on it. We're not getting everything done with voter ID, which is the first step, which is also going to include verifying your citizenship, which we don't do in California today.
But Mike, this can be fixed in the reconciliation bill. Implement all this stuff and provide funding to the states to implement it. Boom.
A little bit different, but yes, we'll go with that. But Scott, Kirk, give me one more closing story here, and then I want to roll to Scott.
All right,
Hey,
a
while you're-
California pediatrician is suing the CDC over a federal program that requires doctors who treat children that are enrolled in Medicaid to give the children all the vaccines recommended by the CDC. That includes the controversial COVID vaccine and the HPV vaccine that many parents don't want their kids to get.
And Kurt, by the
This
way,
lawsuit.
it's good to know that great minds think alike, and even ours actually happen to be featuring that story outside of your notes in Netter News tomorrow, as a matter of fact, because I do believe
So
that
everyone who's watching tonight should go to @NetterMike on Twitter and sign up for the Netter News. It's a great
And-
summary of what's going on in California.
And remember, you can just Google Netter News. It's free. And I know you have that kind of money. Just Google Netter News, even if you're down on X, LinkedIn, Facebook, and go and sign up, because this is how we keep you informed on the stories that we're talking about. Scott, give me a closing roll here.
Hey, we have California's newest senator. That's Adam Schifferbrains, otherwise known as Pencil Neck. He had his luggage stolen in San Francisco. This is such a crack up. I wonder if that Biden aide that dressed up like a girl that had the luggage fit. He must have been in San Francisco. Anyway.
Oh, the guy that was running the nuclear waste, right? That dressed up in dresses.
Exactly. So
Who looked like he'd eaten the nuclear waste, by the way.
and then he sits there and shops for new luggage, and the clerk told him, "Yeah, Democrats are assholes." It's kind of like I wonder if he knew who he was talking to. You know, Pencil Neck might think that he's known by everybody, but you know, you look at this guy on the street, and you'd be one of those guys. You'd say, "Yeah, I think I'll walk on the other side of the street for that guy." But yeah, it couldn't have happened to a better person, since he has brought up another bill, absolutely ridiculous bill. He's trying to promote getting rid of all assault weapons on a national or federal level. Of course, he doesn't define what an assault weapon is. It's just any weapon that looks mean. And you know, I guess the Constitution, as we know about Democrats, they don't care. Unless it benefits them, they don't care. And the Second Amendment, we don't need no Second Amendment. You know, just take away the guns because we don't like you. And so Adam Schifferbrains scores another one. You know, go San Francisco. I love the clerk.
Hey,
in the
so
story.
Mike Scott Pressler says he's coming to California on June 14th to help with the voter ID initiative.
He
Hey,
is. And by
fantastic.
the way, when I end with this, yes, we're going to be talking about voter ID and the CEO Act of school choice over the next upcoming months. Gentlemen, I'm ready to roll to the end here. And I want to tell everyone out there, don't wait for Scott Pressler to come to town. Don't wait for Gavin Newsom to leave office. What you need to do is get engaged even on a micro basis right now. We had some victories this week. Every week we have some victories and we have some losses. But the victories that we have take place for those of you that participate in shows like this, that go to our Rebuild California groups on Facebook. And if you belong to Rebuild California, or you're on X, at Scott Taxfighter 7 or me, or even on LinkedIn, or even our YouTube channel, just don't watch it and sign up for it, or even Netter News. Invite other people. I can't stress how important it is. Yeah, invite your Republican friends. Hey, they're already in. I have grown so tired of the echo of saying we're talking to the echo chamber. We have the ability to change things one brick at a time, and we're going to. We did a little this week, and in the upcoming months, voter ID will start to collect signatures. Don't argue amongst yourselves. Get it done. In the upcoming months, the CEO, Children Educational Opportunity, is coming up. Don't argue amongst yourselves about the finite points. Get it done. Do everything you can at least once a day to do a little thing with our groups on social media, even if it's someone else's group, but I'm partial to ours, with this show, with everything you can to push the ball 1 inch forward. Because enough balls come in Sacramento, even if they start as beach balls, they're going to turn into bowling balls by the time they hit the walls of the Capitol up there. And it's time we bowl these people over doing things that don't protect our kids, that harm our life every day. They make our taxes too high and our gas too expensive. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank everyone out there. We are California Free Radio. We are going to continue to shout. And even if the cable guy on my pole looks like a corrupt politician, we will not be stopped. Thank you and good night.
See you later, guys.
Next week, 6